The episode kicks off simple and straightforward enough, with disaster and an exploding console. The reason why isn't important. What it is that Bones gets to inject Sulu with some anti-exploding console drugs. They're very potent stuff, though, but then again, Bones wouldn't carry anything less. In a move that successfully earns him the Clumsy Dumbass of the Year award, a shake of the ship causes him to both jam the hypo into his gut and activate it. Of course, we can't rule out that he might have just done it on purpose to have the excuse. I mean, between drinking off-duty, drinking on-duty, and just injecting himself with whatever's lying around, Bones is the only man in Starfleet who can list his legal residence as the Clouds. With a full vial of this stuff that's normally measured out by the drop, Bones pulls a Mel Gibson and just starts shrieking incoherently and runs off. He's got a special case of the crazies, loony enough to act randomly, but still sane enough to sneak up on a man and disable him with just 2 judo chops. Yep, judo chops, because McCoy not only has a degree in medicine, he has a black belt in it too. The reason for the console explosion and Bones accidentally getting himself higher than space dock is because of time distortions on the nearby planet, and Bones beams himself down there. Kirk and company follow and discover the most advanced piece of technology that Bedrock has to offer. It's so advanced that Spock can't begin to explain the thing, and the Rock will be the first to tell you that. The Rock, calling itself the Guardian of Forever, proceeds to repeatedly insult Spock's intelligence, while he can only grind his Vulcan molars at being insulted by a very large piece of furniture. Spock does his best to present a calm exterior, but is unable to hide the occasional shock at being blatantly and repeatedly insulted. Spock is usually a net exporter of mocking the intellect of the inferior. But to show off, the Guardian begins presenting human history for them to witness. Well, cue the guy hopped up on drugs. Bones runs into it and vanishes right before their eyes, and the Rock can only sheepishly admit that Bones has passed into what was. Ah, so you've let a crazy man fly off somewhere into the past to cause God only knows what kind of mucking about with recorded history. Hey, it's not my fault. He's your crazy guy. Yes, obviously the last thing I should have expected from the Guardian of Forever was to actually guard forever. Nobody likes a smartass. Perhaps your new name could be Butterfingers on the edge of whoopsie did I do that? Well, Bones proves how fitting his name is because he has effectively boned history. There is no Enterprise waiting up there for them. Essentially, these are all people out of time now. The only choice now is to go back into the past and try to stop him from doing whatever it is he did to screw up history. Then they'll get returned and everything will be good again, and maybe Kirk will get his face on Mount Rushmore like it should have been the whole time. You'd think that with all its great power that it could tell them exactly when and where to go to fix the screw-up, but the Guardian apparently is only good for making time portals and insulting people. If you want to go into the past, you don't use some complex interface. You don't imagine the time and place you want to go to. You don't look up time-space coordinates or rearrange crystals on a board or something. You just start the stream of time rolling and just kind of eyeball it. After all, this isn't rocket science, it's time travel. They manage to hit the 1930s, where they naturally do not blend in dressed like this. So Kirk says that they'll rob from the rich and give back to the poor later. And it's great to see him knocking down those Rockefeller businessmen who dry their clothes on the fire escape in a dirty alley. Way to stick it to the man. A cop finds them, so Kirk covers for Spock by saying he's a Chinese immigrant who got his head stuck in a rice picker. Don't you find that a little offensive, Captain? Me? Offensive? What are you talking about? I have an Asian driver and I hired a black woman to answer the phones. I'm as progressive a captain as you'll ever find. Spock decides that a Vulcan nerve pinch is the best part of valor. Now that they blend in better, the next question is how do they go finding Bones? Spock needs a computer to scan the data about history in his tricorder, but electronics, never mind computers, are still in their infancy, so it's going to be a royal pain building one from scratch. They'll also need money. Luckily, the basement that they're hiding in belongs to Edith Keeler, who offers them a second chance. No easy thing during the Depression, but it's 15 cents an hour and all the kicks they can't dodge. Also, thanks to her, Kirk excitedly tells Spock that they now have a flop. I'm guessing that he means Star Trek V. Edith Keeler runs a mission and uses it as a chance to share the Starfleet gospel to an enthusiastic audience of down-and-out people, because knowing that one day mankind will travel to other worlds has got to be comforting for a guy who was fired from his job after 20 years and is now sleeping in the park. That's going to put a real spring in your step when you're running from the police to avoid getting locked up for public urination. So the two men throw themselves into their work. Spock trying to analyze the tricorder readings to determine what steps are needed to restore time and ensure that all of Federation history is saved. And Kirk working hard to get laid. Alas, time is the ultimate cockblocker. Edith Keeler was supposed to die in a traffic accident, but somehow Bones prevented that, so now she'll go on to work with FDR to keep America out of World War II. As a result, the Nazis succeed and win the war and screw up the rest of history. At the very least, everyone in Starfleet would have a silly accent now. McCoy finally arrives and proceeds to rant about murderers and assassins, which is a bit of an overreaction considering all this guy's doing is stealing a bottle of milk. Bones then passes out, and odds are it won't be the first time that he wakes up in an alley without remembering how he got there. He eventually gets picked up and brought to Edith's, although Kirk doesn't find out he's there. McCoy is stiff competition in the romance department. I mean, yeah, he's no Kirk, but just because King Kong looks small next to the Empire State Building doesn't mean he's not still huge. Well, thanks to a discussion about movies, though, all four converge on a single spot, the spot where the accident is destined to occur. Kirk thinks that he might be in love with Edith, and Bones is inclined to always save lives, but despite their need to save her, Kirk holds McCoy back and allows history to unfold as it originally was intended. Once again, time travel ends in nothing but tears, and they probably won't even get a chance to return those clothes now, so everybody loses. City was the first time travel story for Star Trek, and it can be argued that its popularity helped encourage mucking about with time, which appeared in, well, every single series plus numerous films. But one of the strongest elements of this story is the relationship between Kirk and Spock, which has to carry a great deal of this episode. The dynamic between them keeps the story alive even in the infodump scenes, to avoid it feeling weighed down by dry exposition. Beyond that, the episode itself is excellently assembled. Its pace isn't quick, but it's deliberate. It never seems like it's getting bogged down, as can often happen in such cases. Kirk's relationship with Edith, while underdeveloped, leads us to the grim but necessary decision of standing by and watching a woman he believes he's fallen in love with suffer a horrible accident. As is often mentioned, Kirk is forced to adhere to a remark that will later be made as he watches that man beside him die, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Kirk must face a terrible and tortuous future, living with the knowledge that he could have saved her and that he chose not to. He lost her because, no matter what the circumstances, he made a choice. Luckily, he's Kirk, so he can just walk that off and be fine the next episode. The weakest part is when Joan Collins starts proselytizing about the Star Trek future. It's a theoretical comfort to know that there is a better future out there, but told so precisely and so divorced from the immediate concerns of others, it feels manipulative and forced. She may be doing something to help right now, but her words of comfort aren't the ones that are going to help people feel better about dealing with the problems of today. To know that many generations later everything is going to be all right, showing the seeds of the better tomorrow and the acts of goodness around you today would have been a much more effective lesson for them. Because the theoretical Star Trek future didn't just happen after all. It didn't happen because we all decided to just stop being jerks one day. It was built over time by acts of decency going around us every single day. Awards time. We have Nasty and the Pasty, or at least two very determined attempts to get it done. Planted Nostradamus, for giving us crazy specific predictions about the future. Best argument with a rock. Even if you win an argument with stone, you've still lost in the eyes of everyone else. And of course, springtime for Hitler. That's our show. Next time, alternate future fans get their day with Yesterday's Enterprise.